The city of Arthas stretched under the warm glow of two suns. Towers of silver metal and glass rose high above the crowded streets. Sky vehicles drifted between them like slow birds. The air was filled with the sound of voices from many species, some speaking in deep, rumbling tones, others in high, musical notes. Laura walked with a steady pace along the main market road. She wore the blue and white robe of a Galactic Council translator, and her small silver badge caught the light as she moved. She had spent the day in the upper council chambers translating for 3 alien delegates who spoke entirely different languages. It had been tiring, but her work was important. Words could end wars or start them. She took her role seriously. Near the edge of the market, she noticed something unusual. A man stood quietly beside a small stall selling fruit from distant worlds. He was human, tall but not broad, dressed in simple brown clothes. His short black hair was neat, and his eyes were calm. He did not call out to vendors or try to bargain, like the others. He only watched, as if the whole market were something to be studied. Laura had met humans before. They had entered the wider galaxy only a few decades ago. Most were curious and loud, eager to show they belonged among other spacefaring races. But this man was different. His stillness made him almost invisible among the movement around him. The stall owner, a small green-skinned seller from Morai, seemed to know him. "Tom," the vendor called, handing him a small fruit wrapped in cloth. The man nodded in thanks, paid with quiet precision, and turned to walk away. Laura found herself speaking without thinking. "You are not from here, are you?" Tom paused and turned toward her. His expression was mild, but his eyes were sharp in a way that surprised her. "No, I came from Earth only 6 months ago." His voice was calm, almost gentle, and carried no rush in its tone. "You seem different from the other humans I have met," Laura said. Tom smiled faintly. "I do not like to be loud. I like to see things before I speak about them." That answer stayed with her. Over the next weeks, Laura saw Tom often. He came to the market at the same time each day. Sometimes they spoke for a few minutes about simple things, the taste of a certain fruit, the way the twin suns made the buildings shine, or how the market always smelled faintly of spice. She learned he worked as a repairman in the lower district, fixing machines and devices for those who could not afford expensive service. His life was simple, and he seemed to want nothing more than to live quietly. Yet Laura felt there was something behind his calm. Sometimes, when a sudden loud noise came from the street, he would turn sharply, as if ready for something. Then, just as quickly, his face would relax again. One day, while walking together along the bridge that crossed the central canal, Laura asked, "Do you miss Earth?" Tom was silent for a moment. "I miss some things. The forests, the rivers, the sound of rain. But not everything." "What do you not miss?" she asked. His answer was short. "The things that take peace away." He did not explain further. Laura's friends noticed her interest in Tom. Some were curious, others confused. "Why speak so much with a human?" asked Marin, another translator. "They have little history in the galaxy. They have no great cities or fleets like the Doran or the Kiri." Laura only said, "A person's worth is not measured in fleets or titles." Her friendship with Tom grew naturally. He never pushed for more, never tried to impress her. He listened when she spoke and remembered the small things she told him. When she had a long day, he would wait at the market to walk her home, carrying her bag without being asked. Months passed. One evening, the air above Arthas shimmered as a new ship entered orbit. Laura saw it from her balcony, a long black vessel, with sharp angles that caught the fading light of the suns. Her chest tightened. She had seen such ships before in news reports. They belonged to the Skarn. The Skarn were known across many systems as raiders. They struck quickly, taking resources, technology, and sometimes people. Her own homeworld had once been attacked when she was a child. The memory of burning skies and running through smoke was still sharp in her mind. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. All translators were placed on alert. Lura went to the council hall and heard the grim news. The Skarn demanded tribute, energy cells, metals, and food, or they would attack. When she returned home late that night, Tom was sitting by the small rooftop garden, trimming the leaves of a plant. She told him what she had heard. He listened, without interrupting. "Are you worried?" she asked. He looked up at the stars above. "Worry is natural, but worry alone does nothing. It is better to be ready." There was something in the way he said it, steady and certain, that made her wonder, but she did not press for more. In the days that followed, the Skarn patrol ships moved closer. The city streets were tense. Traders rushed to leave before trouble began. The council debated paying the tribute, but many argued it would only make the Skarn stronger. One afternoon, as Lura walked through the square, she saw a group of Skarn soldiers stride into the market. Their black armor reflected the sunlight. People stepped aside quickly. The soldiers moved with confidence, as if they owned the place. The lead soldier spotted Lura's translator badge and approached. "You will come," he ordered in a harsh voice. "You will help deliver our message to the council." Before she could reply, Tom stepped between them. His voice was calm but firm. "She is not going with you." The Skarn laughed. "And who are you? A quiet Earthman?" He shoved Tom aside and motioned for Lura to follow. Lura's heart pounded. She looked at Tom. For a brief moment, she saw something in his eyes, sharp, cold, and dangerous. But then, he stepped back, saying nothing more. The soldiers moved on, leaving the market buzzing with whispers. Lura walked home that evening thinking about that moment. The quiet human she had come to know was more than he appeared. She could feel it. But what exactly was he hiding? Life in Arthas continued, but the city felt different. The market still opened each morning, the transport lines still carried passengers, and the two suns still rose over the silver towers. Yet a tension hung in the air. The Skarn ships in orbit were a shadow over everything. Lura walked through the streets on her way to the council hall, noticing how quickly people moved now. Merchants kept their voices low. Children stayed close to their parents. Even the air seemed heavy. Tom continued his work as a repairman in the lower district. Each day he left early with a small bag of tools and returned before nightfall. He did not speak much about what he saw during the day, but Lura noticed that he was watching the city more carefully than before. His calm remained, but it was the kind of calm that made her think of a still lake hiding deep currents beneath. One evening, after dinner, Lura sat with Tom on the rooftop. The small garden swayed in the light breeze. From here, they could see much of the city, the tall towers and the glowing lines of transport vehicles moving along their paths. Above them, far in the darkening sky, the faint shapes of Skarn patrol craft glided silently. "They are not leaving," Lura said quietly. "No," Tom replied. "They will stay until they get what they want, or until someone stops them." His tone was steady, but the words carried weight. Lura turned to him. "The council still debates. Some believe we should give them the tribute. Some believe we should resist. I do not know what is right. If we pay, they may come again. If we fight, many may die." Tom did not answer right away. He looked out over the city. "In my home, we had an old saying. If you give the wolf meat once, it will come to your door again. Sometimes the only way to stop it is to make it fear you." The idea made Lura uneasy. Fear leads to war. "Sometimes war comes whether you want it or not," Tom said. His eyes were on the distant Skarn ships. The next day, the Skarn made their presence felt again. A squad of their soldiers walked into the council district in full armor. They spoke to no one, but their presence alone sent a message. The people watched them pass in silence. Laura was in the hall when the council announced the latest demand from the Scarn, double the original amount of tribute, to be delivered within 2 days. The chamber erupted in arguments. As a translator, Laura did not have the right to vote, but she listened carefully. Some council members shouted that the tribute must be paid to protect the citizens. Others called it surrender. A few spoke of organizing a defense, but it was clear the city's forces were too small to face the Scarn directly. When she returned home that evening, she found Tom sitting at the small table, cleaning a strange metal tool. It was not one of his usual repair instruments. It was heavier, made of dark steel, and shaped almost like a handle without a blade. "What is that?" she asked. "Just something I keep in case it is needed," Tom said simply, putting it away in his bag. Laura watched him for a moment, but she did not press him. 2 days later, the Scarn sent a message that shook the city. If the tribute was not delivered, they would begin taking what they wanted by force. Their first target would be the market district. The council called for all civilians to avoid the area, but Laura had work there that morning. She needed to deliver translated documents to a merchant who was preparing testimony for the council. She thought she could return before the Scarn arrived, but she was wrong. The attack came without warning. Laura had just stepped out of the merchant's shop when a sharp whine filled the air. Scarn troop transports descended into the square, their engines blasting dust and debris. Soldiers poured out, weapons drawn, pushing through the crowd. People screamed and ran in every direction. Vendors abandoned their stalls. Boxes and crates crashed to the ground. The smell of burnt air filled Laura's nose as one of the Scarn fired a warning shot into the air. A soldier spotted her translator badge and grabbed her by the arm. "You will help us speak to your council," he growled. Before she could reply, Tom appeared from the edge of the square. He was moving quickly but without panic. His eyes locked on hers, and for a moment, the noise around them seemed far away. "Let her go," he said to the soldier. The Scarn turned and laughed. "This is the quiet Earth man again. You think you can order us?" Tom stepped closer. "She is not yours to take." The soldier shoved him hard in the chest. Tom did not fall, but he stepped back slightly. He said nothing more, and the Scarn dragged Laura toward the waiting transport. From the corner of her eye, Laura saw Tom watching them. His expression was unreadable, but his hands were clenched. She felt a strange certainty. He was letting this happen for a reason she did not yet understand. The soldiers released Laura at the edge of the square after sending their message to the council through her. She walked home shaken, but her mind kept returning to Tom. She had known him for months, yet she could not shake the feeling that she had only seen the surface of who he truly was. That night, Tom was quiet at dinner. When she asked about the attack, he only said, "I was there to make sure you were safe." "You did not fight them," she said softly. "Not yet," he replied. His voice was calm, but there was a sharpness in it that made her think of steel hidden beneath cloth. The next morning, the city woke to the sound of the Scarn ships moving closer. They were preparing for something larger. Laura stood on the rooftop, watching the black shapes in the sky. She felt the weight of what was coming. Beside her, Tom was silent, his gaze fixed on the ships. In that silence, she understood one thing. When the time came, Tom would act. And when he did, it would not be as the quiet man she had married, but as someone far more dangerous. The morning began with a strange stillness in the air. Even the usual hum of sky traffic over Arthas seemed quieter. Laura walked through the narrow streets toward the council hall, her steps quick. She had been called early for translation duty. The Scarn had sent another message, and the council wanted every word recorded clearly. When she reached the hall, she saw that the main entrance was guarded by twice the usual number of soldiers. Their armor gleamed under the twin suns, but their Faces showed unease. Inside the chamber, council members sat in tense silence. The Skarn demand was short, but clear. They would arrive in person within the day to collect the tribute. If the tribute was not ready, they would take what they wanted from the city. Laura's stomach tightened. She thought of the crowded streets, the market stalls, the children playing near the canals. She had lived through a raid before when she was young. She knew the fear it brought. By midday, the Skarn ships descended. Their black hulls reflected the sunlight as they hovered above the central district. The sound of their engines was deep and constant, a low growl that seemed to press on the chest. Soldiers poured out from the ships, moving with perfect coordination. Their armor was dark with sharp edges, their helmets shaped to make their faces appear like beasts. They carried long, heavy weapons that looked as if they could tear through the strongest wall. Laura was in the market, delivering a translated report to a merchant. She heard the heavy steps of the Skarn before she saw them. The crowd split apart quickly, each person stepping back to make space. The soldiers marched straight toward the council district, but stopped when they saw her badge. One of them pointed at her. "Translator, you will come." Laura hesitated. "Why?" "To give our words to your leaders," the soldier said. His voice was harsh, like stone scraping metal. Before she could answer, Tom appeared from between two stalls. He moved, without hurry, but his eyes were locked on the soldier. "She is not going with you," Tom said. His voice was steady and quiet, but it carried enough weight to make the nearby vendors turn their heads. The soldier let out a short laugh. "The quiet human again. Do you think your voice will stop us?" Tom stepped forward, closing the space between them. "Let her be." The soldier shoved him in the chest. Tom took the push without falling back, but he did not fight. His eyes stayed on the Skarn, calm yet unblinking. The Skarn turned away, grabbing Laura by the arm. "Come now, do not make this slow." Laura glanced at Tom. For a moment, she saw something flash in his gaze, sharp, cold, and dangerous. It was gone in an instant, replaced by the stillness she had always known. The soldiers led her to the front steps of the council hall. There, they made her speak their demands to the gathered leaders. The tribute must be doubled, delivered within one day, or the Skarn would begin their assault. When the message was complete, the Skarn released her without harm. She walked back through the streets with her mind racing. Tom had not tried to fight them. He had simply watched. But it had not been the watchfulness of a man afraid. It had been the watchfulness of a man measuring every move. That evening, Laura found Tom at home. He was repairing a small cooking unit that had stopped working. His hands moved with care, yet his mind seemed elsewhere. "Why did you follow me to the market today?" she asked. "To see that you were safe," Tom said. "You did not stop them," she said. "I stopped them from harming you. That was enough for now." His voice was quiet, but there was something behind it, a hidden weight she could not place. The next day, the council voted against paying the tribute. The decision spread quickly through the city. Some citizens celebrated the courage of their leaders. Others feared the choice would bring disaster. Tom listened to the news without reaction. "If they will not pay, they must be ready to fight," he said simply. "You think the city can win?" Laura asked. "No," Tom said, "not without help." As night fell, Skarn patrols began moving through the streets. They stopped at shops, taking food and supplies without payment. The city guards tried to resist in some places, but the Skarn weapons were too strong. Laura saw it happen from her balcony, a group of soldiers pushing into a vendor's stall, throwing crates aside. Tom stood beside her, watching in silence. "They are testing the city," he said, "finding its weak places before they strike in full." Laura turned to him. "And if they strike?" "Then someone will have to strike back," Tom replied. His gaze did not leave the soldiers below. The tension reached its peak the following morning. A Skarn officer came to the council steps with a squad of soldiers. His armor was black and silver, marked with symbols that showed his high rank. He removed his helmet, revealing a pale face with sharp eyes. "This is your last chance," he told the council. "Give us what we demand, or your streets will burn." The council leader refused. "We will not feed your raids. Leave now." The young officer's mouth curved into a thin smile. "Then we take what we wish." He gave a sharp signal, and the soldiers began moving into the streets. Laura was on the far side of the square when she saw them. People screamed and ran, but Tom moved in the opposite direction, straight toward the Skarn. His hands were empty, his pace steady. For a moment she thought he would speak again, try to turn them away. But he stopped short, watching every move they made. His eyes shifted constantly, taking in the layout of the street, the positions of the soldiers, the paths between buildings. Laura realized he was not only looking at them, he was learning them. The Skarn shoved through the crowd, taking what they wanted. A soldier brushed past Tom, but he did not move. He stood like a statue in the middle of the street, and the soldiers did not see him as a threat. When the last Skarn left the square, Tom turned and walked back to Laura. "They will strike soon," he said. "And what will you do?" she asked. His answer was simple. "What I must." The attack came at night. Laura woke to a deep, shaking roar that rattled the walls of their home. She rushed to the balcony and saw flames rising from the market district. Skarn ships hovered low, their black hulls cutting through the darkness. Troop transports landed between the narrow streets, spilling soldiers into the heart of the city. The alarm towers began to ring, a heavy, echoing sound that warned all citizens to take shelter. Laura's heart pounded as she looked down the streets, searching for anyone she knew. Tom was already moving. He stood in the middle of their small living room, pulling open a storage compartment under the floor. From it, he lifted a long metal case she had never seen before. The case was dark gray, marked with faint symbols she did not recognize. "What is that?" she asked. "My answer to them," Tom said quietly. He carried the case to the table and unlocked it with a slow, deliberate motion. The lid opened with a soft click, revealing something that took Laura's breath away: a sword. It was unlike any blade she had ever seen. The hilt was wrapped in dark leather, and the guard was shaped from a metal she could not name. The blade itself was long and narrow, glowing faintly with a blue light that seemed to move like water along its edge. Even from a step away, she could feel the air hum around it. Tom lifted the sword with practiced ease, holding it upright for a moment as if weighing it in his hand. His quiet face was the same, but there was a change in his eyes. The calm was still there, but now it was joined by something else, focus sharper than steel. "Stay here," he told her. "No," she said quickly. "I can help." "You will. Help more by staying safe," he said firmly. "I cannot fight if I am worried about you." Laura hesitated, then nodded. She stepped aside as Tom strapped a small belt around his waist, holding the sword in a sheath at his hip. Then, without another word, he left. The streets were chaos. Skarn soldiers moved in squads, forcing doors open, tearing apart stalls, and dragging supplies into waiting transports. The glow from burning buildings lit their armor, making them look like moving shadows. Tom moved through the smoke without fear. His steps were quick but controlled, his head turning constantly as he studied the scene. A group of soldiers blocked the main road. One spotted Tom and shouted, raising his weapon. The others turned, aiming at him. Tom drew his sword in. One smooth motion. The sound was soft, but it cut through the noise of the street. The blade caught the light of the fires, its blue glow sharp against the darkness. The first soldier charged. Tom sidestepped and struck once, the blade moving faster than the eye could follow. The soldier fell, his weapon clattering to the ground. The others hesitated. They had faced blades before, but never one like this, and never in hands that moved with such precision. Tom did not give them time to recover. He stepped forward, each motion exact, each strike clean. Within moments, the squad was down, their weapons scattered. From the balcony of a nearby building, Lura watched in disbelief. She had followed him at a distance, unable to stay behind as he had asked. She had known Tom was calm, careful, and thoughtful, but she had never imagined he could move like this. Every swing of the sword was controlled. He wasted no motion. His steps were measured, his breathing steady. It was like watching a master craft a perfect design, except his design was made in the middle of battle. Tom moved on, cutting through another squad that tried to block the road to the market. The blue light of the blade sliced through their armor with ease. The Skarns. Advantage in numbers meant little when faced with his speed. By the time Tom reached the market square, it was almost unrecognizable. Stalls were overturned, fires burned in several corners, and the air was thick with smoke. Skarn soldiers were loading crates into transports, barking orders at each other. Tom did not hesitate. He moved through the chaos like a shadow, his blade striking with deadly rhythm. One soldier fell, then another, each with a single precise blow. The Skarn began to realize they were facing something more than a frightened civilian. Shouts rang out, and a larger squad formed a circle around Tom. The officer in charge stepped forward. "You are one man," he said in a voice full of mockery. "Do you think you can stand against all of us?" Tom's reply was simple. "Yes." The fight that followed was fast and brutal. The officer lunged first, swinging a heavy blade meant to crush armor. Tom sidestepped, letting the attack pass harmlessly by before striking the officer's side with the glowing edge of his sword. The officer staggered back, stunned. The rest of the squad attacked together, trying to overwhelm him. But Tom's blade moved like light itself, parrying, cutting, and turning aside every strike. When the last soldier fell, the officer scrambled to his feet and retreated toward the transports. The Skarn began to pull back. Without their squads in control of the square, their lines weakened. Tom pressed forward, forcing them toward the landing area. He did not chase them into their ships, but he made certain they left the square empty. Only when the last transport lifted off did he lower his sword. The blue glow faded as he slid it back into its sheath. Lura stepped out from behind the damaged wall where she had been hiding. Her heart was pounding, but her eyes were fixed on him. "You could have told me," she said. Tom shook his head. "Telling you would have been easy. Showing you was necessary." She looked at the sword, then at him. "Who are you, really?" His answer was quiet. "I am just a man who refuses to watch his home burn." He glanced toward the fires still, burning in the distance. "This is not over. They will come back." Lura understood now. The quiet man she had married was not only a repairman, he was something far older, far more dangerous, and the city would need him again before the end. The fires in the market district had burned through the night. By morning, the smoke had thinned, but the smell of ash still hung in the air. The streets were quiet except for the sound of distant repairs, hammers striking metal, hoses spraying, water on blackened walls. Lura and Tom walked back to their home. Neither spoke at first. Tom carried the sword at his side, still sheathed. The blue glow was gone, but Lura could almost feel the power inside it. When they reached the rooftop garden, Tom set the sword on the table and began cleaning it with careful hands. Lura stood nearby, watching. "You are not just a repairman," she said at last. Tom's eyes stayed on the blade. "No." "Then tell me," Lura said. "I saw you fight. I saw what you can do. Who are you?" Tom placed the cloth aside. "I was a blade warden." The name was unfamiliar to Lura. "What is that?" "A protector," Tom explained. "Before humans joined the wider galaxy, We had groups trained to defend colonies from raiders. The Blade Wardens were among the oldest of these. We used swords like this, made from rare Terran alloys, fused with an energy core. They could cut through armor that normal weapons could not. We trained for years in speed, precision, and control. We were meant to be the last line of defense. Lura stepped closer. And you left this life? Tom nodded. I fought for many years. Too many. I lost my squad during a raid on a distant mining world. After that, I could not keep fighting. I wanted a place far from war. I came here because I thought Arthas was safe. And yet the war has found you again, Lura said softly. Tom looked at the city below. It always does. Raiders look for weakness, and they think this city has none who will stand against them. That is why I could not stay quiet. Lura remembered the first time she saw him in the market, calm, almost invisible among the crowd. She realized now that he had been living in shadows by choice, hiding the part of himself that carried the weight of battles past. You said your sword is made from Terran metal, she said. Why does it glow? The core inside the blade is powered by a crystal, Tom explained. It draws energy from movement. The more it is used, the more it hums with power. That glow you saw is a sign it is fully charged. It can cut through materials most weapons cannot touch. The Skarn armor is strong, but not against this. And how many people know about these Blade Wardens? Not many, Tom said. Most think we are a story from old times. That is how I wanted it. If people knew I carried this, they would come asking for help. And I did not want to fight anymore. They sat in silence for a moment. The wind brushed through the garden. Plants, carrying with it the faint scent of charred wood from the market. Tom, Lura said slowly, the council will want to know about you. You could help them prepare for the next attack. I will help, he said. But they must understand. I will not fight their battles for them. I can teach them how to fight, how to prepare. If they depend on me alone, they will fall when I am gone. Lura considered his words. It made sense, but she could not help the worry growing in her chest. The Skarn will not stop after last night. They will come back stronger. Yes, Tom said. And next time, they will aim for more than supplies. They will try to break the city's spirit. Later that day, Tom went to the council hall with Lura. The guards at the door looked uneasy when they saw the sword at his side. Inside, the council members whispered among themselves, some looking at Tom with curiosity, others with doubt. The council leader, an older Kiri named Varn, stood. You are the human who fought the Skarn last night. Tom nodded. Yes. You drove them from the square, Varn said. That is more than our city guard has managed. Who trained you? I trained with the Blade Wardens, Tom said. We defended against raiders before most of you had even heard of Earth. I came to this city for peace, but I cannot stand by while you are attacked. Some council members shifted in their seats. A few nodded in approval, but others frowned. You are one man, a counselor said. The Skarn have hundreds. You cannot win alone. I do not intend to fight alone, Tom replied. I can train your guards, and any citizen willing to learn. I can show you how to use the city's layout to your advantage, how to turn their numbers into a weakness. But you must act now. If you wait, you will lose. There was a long silence. Then Varn said, We will consider your offer. In the meantime, will you stand ready to defend the city? Yes, Tom said. That night, back at home, Lura found Tom sitting by the garden again, his sword resting against the chair. You told them everything, she said. Not everything, Tom replied. I told them enough to act. Some things about the Blade Wardens are not for open discussion. Lura sat beside him. When you first came here, you spoke little, kept to yourself. Now you stand in the council hall. offering to lead the defense. What changed? Tom looked at the stars. I realized that peace is not something you find. It is something you protect. If I want this city to stay safe, I must help protect it. Even if it means stepping out of the shadows. She studied his face in the faint starlight. I am glad you did. In the days that followed, Tom began his work. He trained the city guards in small, precise movements, how to strike quickly, how to dodge without wasting energy, how to fight, in narrow streets where numbers meant less. He showed them how to set traps along rooftops and alleys, how to move supplies without being seen, and how to watch the skies for the first sign of enemy ships. Laura helped by translating his instructions into the different languages of the city's mixed population. She also spoke to citizens, convincing them to learn basic defense skills. The training was hard, but people came, humans, Kiri, Morai, and others, all willing to stand together. Tom never raised his voice, but his presence kept everyone focused. When he moved, they saw the skill that had driven the Skarn from the square. When he spoke, they listened. One evening, after a long day of training, Tom returned home with a rare smile. What is it? Laura asked. They are learning fast, he said. If the Skarn come soon, they will find the city ready. Laura felt a small spark of hope, but deep inside, she knew the next battle would test them more than anything they had faced. And when it came, Tom would once again be at the heart of it, sword in hand. The twin suns rose slowly over Arthas, casting long shadows across the silver towers. The city felt alive and tense. Every street, every rooftop, and every alley held people prepared for the attack that was coming. Citizens had learned basics. Defense, city guards had trained tirelessly, and scouts moved silently, watching the skies. Tom stood on the balcony of his home, sword at his side. Laura joined him, her hands folded in front of her. She could see the faint glow of energy shields being raised around the city perimeter. The council had listened to Tom's guidance. Every precaution, every defensive measure had been put in place. They are coming, Tom said, his voice quiet but firm. Laura looked up at the sky. Far above, black shapes moved swiftly between the clouds. Skarn ships glinted in the sunlight, their hulls sharp and threatening. The hum of their engines grew louder. The city was ready. When the Skarn ships entered the atmosphere, alarms rang out across Arthas. Citizens moved to designated safe zones, guards took positions, and scouts reported enemy movements. From the rooftops, Tom watched their approach. His eyes were calm, calculating. He had already memorized the best lines of attack, the traps. That would slow them, and the narrow streets where numbers would mean nothing. Remember your training, he told the city guards. Stay in formation, use the streets to your advantage, and protect the people. Move quickly, but do not panic. They are fast, but we are ready. The first wave of Skarn soldiers landed near the central plaza. They moved with the same confidence as before, but this time they faced a city prepared. The narrow streets funneled them into ambush points. Hidden traps slowed their advance, and the citizens, armed with small weapons and shields, struck with precision. Tom moved through the streets like a shadow. His sword flashed with blue light, cutting through enemy armor, disabling weapons, and pushing the Skarn back. Every movement was careful, measured, and deadly. He was not fighting recklessly. Every strike protected someone else, every step cleared a path for the defenders. The Skarn regrouped, bringing in more troops and heavier weapons. They thought they could overwhelm the city, but Tom had already predicted this. Archers positioned. On rooftops fired nets and energy bolts, tripping the larger machines. Barricades had been set in narrow alleys to slow troop movements. The once chaotic streets were now an organized battlefield controlled by humans and their allies. Laura moved alongside other translators and civilians, helping direct injured citizens to safe areas and relaying messages between squads. She saw the difference Tom's presence made. People fought not only with weapons, but with courage, trusting in the strategy he had taught. A squad of Skarn soldiers rushed a narrow alley, trying to reach the city's energy core. Tom was already there, waiting. His blade moved faster than the eye could follow, cutting through the enemy with perfect precision. He blocked a heavy strike, parried another, and struck down 3 more before the squad could recover. The humans who had been stationed nearby followed his movements, striking with confidence and coordination. The Skarn officer who had led the previous attack appeared in the distance. His eyes widened as he saw Tom standing calmly in the middle of the alley, sword glowing. He signaled his troops to attack together. Tom faced them alone, blocking the first heavy swings with skillful strikes. He moved like water, flowing between attacks, turning the soldiers' force against them. Citizens cheered quietly from the rooftops as the Skarn fell back one by one. When the last soldier attempted to flee, Tom's sword moved swiftly, cutting the weapon from his hands and forcing him to surrender. The officer, seeing his soldiers defeated, shouted commands to retreat. Tom did not chase them beyond the city perimeter. Instead, he lowered his blade and helped the remaining citizens secure the area. Throughout the city, similar battles took place. Alleyways, rooftops, and market squares became stages for the defending citizens. Tom appeared where he was most needed, always in the center of the fighting, his sword a beacon of precision and strength. The Skarn had expected chaos and fear, but they found courage, planning, and skill. By the afternoon, the Skarn realized they could not take Arthas by force. Their troops were being funneled into traps, defeated by small groups and blocked at every corner. Panic began to spread among their ranks. Tom moved through the city, coordinating defensive squads. He communicated silently, using gestures and quick instructions. He taught civilians how to create temporary barricades, where to retreat safely, and how to protect one another. Every action made the city stronger. Every strike weakened the enemy. Finally, as the last Skarn ship lifted off, the city erupted in cautious celebration. Fires still burned in some districts, but most people were safe. The streets were filled with citizens checking on neighbors and friends. Guards returned from the front lines, exhausted but proud. Tom returned to the balcony of his home. Lura met him there. His sword was sheathed again, but the faint glow of its energy still lingered, like a heartbeat. "They are gone," Lura said, relief flooding her voice. "For now," Tom replied. "They will come back, but next time, they will face a city even more prepared, and we will be ready." She studied him. "I have never seen anyone fight like that. You were incredible." "I only did what was necessary," Tom said quietly. "The people of Arthas did most of the work. I guided them, but they stood and fought." "That is what matters," Lura smiled. "Then you taught them well." That evening, the council gathered to review the defense. Leaders from all races in the city praised the training and guidance Tom had provided. Citizens spoke of their courage, the precision of their movements, and the effectiveness of their teamwork. Tom spoke little, letting others take the words. When asked about the sword and his past, he shared just enough to explain his skill and the source of his training. The council realized that humans, with guidance and unity, could defend themselves even against superior forces. Lura and Tom returned home after the meeting. The city was quiet again, the streets mostly cleared. Fires had been extinguished and repairs had begun. Sitting on the balcony, she finally asked the question she had been holding back. "Will it ever end, Tom? This war? These attacks?" Tom gazed at the distant horizon where the last Skarn ships disappeared. "War will always exist somewhere, but we can make sure it does not take our home. Arthas is strong now, and we have shown that courage and skill can turn fear into victory." Lura leaned against him. "I am proud of you, And I am proud of them, Tom said, nodding toward the city below. They stood together, and that is the true strength. The two of them sat quietly, watching the sunset paint the silver. Towers in gold. For the first time since the attack began, there was peace in their hearts. The city had survived, and with preparation, courage, and guidance, they would survive again if the Scarn returned. The city of Arthas woke to calm. The twin suns rose over silver towers, casting long golden reflections across the streets. The fires from the Scarn attack had been extinguished, smoke had cleared, and citizens moved through the city with a quiet pride. Laura stepped onto the balcony of her home, looking out at the streets. She saw children returning to play, merchants opening shops again, and guards patrolling with steady confidence. The city had survived. She smiled, knowing that the courage of its people, guided by Tom, had made this possible. Tom joined her quietly. His sword was sheathed, hanging at his side, but the faint blue glow still lingered, a reminder of the power he had wielded to protect them. "They are repairing what was broken," Laura said. Tom nodded. "Yes, and they will be stronger for it. Every obstacle teaches strength, and every threat tests courage. The city has shown both." The council summoned the citizens to the central plaza for a ceremony. People gathered in the streets, standing, shoulder to shoulder, faces showing relief, pride, and hope. Leaders from all races, humans, Kiri, Morai, and others, stood on the elevated platform, ready to speak. Tom and Laura arrived walking together. The crowd parted slightly, recognizing him immediately. Whispers spread quickly, and soon people were cheering quietly. He had become a symbol of strength, but more importantly, a symbol of unity. Council leader Varn stepped forward. "Today Arthas has shown that even against the strongest threat, courage and unity can prevail. We were attacked by the Scarn, but we stood together. We survived, and we are stronger than before." Laura looked at Tom, who remained calm, his eyes scanning the crowd. Varn continued. "This victory is not just because of one man, though he guided us. It is because of all of you who learned, who fought, and who did not give in to fear. You are the defenders of Arthas." The crowd erupted into cheers. Tom stepped forward, humbly raising his hand to acknowledge them. After the ceremony, Laura and Tom returned to the balcony. She turned to him, curiosity in her eyes. "Will the Scarn come back?" she asked. "Perhaps," he said. "But if they do, they will find a city ready. They will find people who are trained, organized, and fearless. They will find strength in numbers, skill, and courage. And they will find that Arthas is not so easily broken." She studied his face. "You could have stayed hidden. You could have left after the first attack." Tom shook his head. "I could not. This city is my home now, and it belongs to all who live here. I will stand when needed, but the real strength comes from the people themselves. That is why I stayed." The following days were filled with rebuilding. Streets were cleared of debris, shops reopened, and homes repaired. The council established a new training program for citizens, led by Tom, to ensure that the city would remain prepared. Citizens who had fought, trained, or helped in any way were recognized. Medals, plaques, and simple honors were given to those who had shown bravery. Children were taught the basics of self-defense in schools, while adults learned advanced tactics. Laura helped organize the new programs, translating instructions and guiding families on how to stay safe. She felt pride in the people she had helped protect, and gratitude for the quiet man who had become a hero without seeking recognition. One evening, Tom and Laura walked along the repaired canals. The water reflected the glow of lanterns, and the streets were filled with laughter and conversation. "You changed this city," Laura said softly. Not just with your sword, but with your guidance. People trust you, and they believe in themselves now. Tom smiled faintly. I only showed them the way. The courage was always inside them. I just helped them see it. They paused by the edge of a bridge, looking at the calm water. Laura touched his arm. I am proud to be here with you. You fought not just to protect, but to teach. That is more than any sword can do. Tom looked at her, his calm eyes softening. I am proud to be here with you as well. You stood by me even when things were dangerous. You helped the city, and you helped me. News soon arrived that the Skarn had retreated to the outer sectors of the galaxy. Rumors said they were regrouping, but none dared attack Arthas again without extreme caution. The story of the quiet human who had unsheathed his sword spread throughout nearby systems, inspiring tales of courage and skill. Citizens held festivals to celebrate their victory. Streets were filled with music, lights, and laughter. Children played with miniature wooden swords, pretending to fight invisible enemies, while adults shared stories of bravery. Tom remained modest, often walking among the people quietly, offering guidance without fanfare. One evening, Laura and Tom sat on the balcony again, overlooking the city. The skies were clear, stars beginning to appear as the twin suns set. You have changed so much here, Laura said. Do you ever regret leaving your old life behind? Tom shook his head. No, my old life was necessary, but it prepared me for this. Everything I learned, every battle I fought, led me to this moment. This city needed more than a sword. It needed hope, guidance, and courage. And now, they have it. She smiled. And they have you. I am only part of it, Tom said. The people are the true strength. I simply help them see it. As the night grew darker, the city glowed below. Lanterns reflected in the canals, and the streets hummed with life. Citizens walked freely, confident that their home was protected. Laura leaned her head against Tom's shoulder. Arthas is alive because of what we did together, she said. Tom rested his hand on hers. Yes, and it will remain alive as long as the people remember courage is not in a single sword, but in every heart willing to fight for home and for others. The city of Arthas slept peacefully that night, its people strong, united, and ready. A quiet human had unsheathed his sword, but in doing so, he had awakened something greater, the courage, skill, and unity of an entire civilization, and that courage would never fade. The story ends with the city safe, Tom accepted as a hero, and the HFY theme clear. Humanity's strength is not just in technology or weapons, but in courage, intelligence, and the willingness to protect and teach others.